Okay, everybody, I'll give a 30-second warning to get the meeting started, please. I think that was less than 30 seconds. Thanks, everybody. Welcome. I will call to order the Gilbert Town Council meeting for April 26, 2022. Welcome for joining us this evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. The first thing on our agenda is the presentation of Student Citizen of the Month Award. Vice Mayor, I will pass that to you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my pleasure to announce the names of the Gilbert Student Citizens of the Month. The recipients were nominated by their teachers and principals for demonstrating good citizenship and character. We appreciate the opportunity to not only recognize these hardworking students, but to also thank all the teachers and school administrators in the community. We appreciate all your efforts to educate and influence our young residents. Our schools are some of Gilbert's greatest assets. At this time, we're going to begin our Student Citizen of the Month presentation. Please enjoy. For those of you who are receiving an award tonight, a certificate and a packet will be sent to your school. And we will begin with our elementary schools. From Ashland Ranch Elementary, Elizabeth McCarthy. Do we have maybe we'll delay here while we let our AV catch up.
Kelsey's working on it. Yes. The team is working on it over there. We were too fast for them, Vice Mayor.
There we go. That makes all the difference in the world. Thank you. We'll just start over. From Ashland Ranch Elementary, Elizabeth McCarthy. From Bridges Elementary, Noel Jones. From Burke Elementary, Henry Fend. From Carroll Ray Ranch Elementary, Claire Baker. From Chaparral Elementary, Kennedy Carroll. From Islands Elementary, Liam Graham. From Leading Edge Academy, Cambry Ross. From Mesquite Elementary, Jordan Black. From Neely Traditional Academy, Hannah Carden. From Oak Tree Elementary, Liam Hill. From Patterson Elementary, Daylin Prewey. From Pioneer Elementary, Colby McCallan. From Playa del Rey Elementary, Tomas Correa. From Riggs Elementary, Charles Hayes. From Santan Elementary, Hayden Hill Guerrero. Settlers Point Elementary, Peyton Larson. From Sonoma Ranch Elementary, Caden Woodward. From Spectrum Elementary, Grant Adams. From Town Meadows Elementary, Sharon Schusler. From Val Vista Lakes Elementary, Eleanor Cannon. And for our second group, middle school and high school, we'd like to recognize from Campo Verde High School, Ethan Nolan. From Canyon Valley High School, Annie Hernandez. From Christ Greenfield Lutheran School, Jacqueline Korb. From Gilbert High School, Dallin Luke. From Greenfield Junior High, Hallie Hott. From Mesquite High School, Keely Pyers. From Payne Junior High, Eva Jamison. From Perry High School, Juan Hirohin. From South Valley Junior High, Madeline Wilson. If we can give them a round of applause, we are very proud of our students. And again, we look forward to the opportunity to do these in person at some point.
Again, someday. Not sure when. Next, we will have our invocation, and that will be presented this evening by Heather White of Gilbert's People Team. Heather, if you could just come down to the podium, please. Thanks for being here this evening.
Thanks for having me. I'm the Organizational Development Manager for the town of Gilbert. My team and I support all employees with all things learning and performance development. I'm also the Gilbert liaison for our partnership with Park University here in Gilbert, where many of our employees, myself included, are seeking higher education degrees so we may better serve our Gilbert community. I'm on the Gilbert Women in STEM Internship Committee. If you know of any female college students who are majoring in science, technology, engineering, or math who would like to tie their field of study to experience working in local government, please send them my way. And lastly, I serve on the Women Empowered Committee through the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce, and we have several upcoming events that you may be interested in participating in, so you can reach out to me directly or view the Chamber webpage. My family and I attend Sun Valley Community Church, and we serve there as well. So please, I'm honored to be here with you this evening. Just join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we gather here as members of council and the great community of Gilbert, and we thank you for calling us together. It is our privilege and our responsibility to support, foster, and advance the mission of Gilbert, which is to anticipate, create, help people. Enable us to draw upon the wisdom and experience of yesterday as we respond to the questions and concerns of tomorrow. Give us freedom to speak the truth boldly and with kindness. Give us patience to listen openly without prejudice. Give us confidence to discover and explore new possibilities. Give us wisdom to discern what is right and good and just. Give us courage to participate in your ongoing work of creation. And continue to remind us that all we do here tonight, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of our great Gilbert citizenry. As we near the end of National Stress Awareness Month, God, we ask that you help those of us who are suffering from personal or professional stress, burnout, or exhaustion. Help us to prioritize ourselves, our health, and our time spent with you. We know to serve others, we must first serve ourselves. We continue to pray that you wrap the people of Ukraine in your warm embrace of safety, hope, and justice. We ask that you watch over our folks in public service as they continue to serve and protect our great Gilbert community. And finally, we ask that you bless our Phoenix Suns with fast feet and shots that are nothing but net this evening. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Heather, thank you so much. I'm so proud of all the involvement that you have going on in this community. Thanks for all you're doing. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Hendricks. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Can I please have a roll call?
Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Amy Yendes.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Lauren Hendricks.
Present.
Councilmember Young Kaprowski. Here. Councilmember Scott September.
Here.
Councilmember Kathy Tilkey.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you, Chevelle. First up, we have a proclamation that the Vice Mayor would like to present.
Is this working? Yes. Thank you. If we could have our team from the clerk's office come join me down here. Chevelle Herrera, our town clerk, Judy Martinez, our deputy town clerk, Patty Hageman, our records management specialist, Ali Ostahowski. Oh, look at that. I got that one. Town clerk specialist, and June Wilson, our town clerk specialist. This is the amazing team behind the scenes who make sure the trains are running on time and we're in compliance with all the necessary state regulations to make sure we're providing feedback to the citizens. And we have a proclamation to honor the good work for Municipal Clerks Week. So we'll just read this very briefly. Whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the Office of the Municipal Clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas municipal clerks continually to strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the Office of the Municipal Clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk, therefore, I, on behalf of Bridget Peterson, Mayor of the Town of Gilbert, do hereby proclaim May 1st through the 7th, 2022 as Municipal Clerks Week. We couldn't do what we do without you all. Thank you. Including they prepared all their own proclamations. And agendized it, and gave me my talking points. They're amazing, right?
Next up, I have the honor of recognizing all of the town-wide volunteers that have been serving our community for a number of years. And you're going to see some slides pop up as we're having this presentation and talking about all of the time and hours that these volunteers give to this community. Years of service from our boards and commissions will be the first group that we're going to recognize, and our town clerk, Chevelle Herrera, and I will recognize those members. Thank you. The first volunteer I'd like to invite down is John Dallin Wilcock, who has given 11 years of volunteer service to the Water Resource Municipal Property Corporation, and we thank you for your time and commitment to our community. Let's get a photo. Do you want to hold your certificate? Next, and I've known this gentleman for almost this many years, Les Pressmick, for his contributions of time and talent to the Parks and Recreation Board during his 23 years of volunteer service. He now currently serves as the chairman of the Veterans Advisory Board. He's a former Planning Commission member and a former Town Council member and Vice Mayor.
You just can't get rid of it.
You're welcome. Take your goodies from Chevelle.
Oh, I can't eat it.
Oh, and next, Kevin Boudreau, for his contributions and time on the Water Resources Municipal Property Corporation during his 26 years of volunteer service with the town of Gilbert. Kevin, I haven't known you that long, but I know you've been contributing in many different ways to our community. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Here, hold this one. Next, I'd like to invite, Chief Jim Jobush down to join me for the, you guessed it, Fire Department volunteers. We will start with, as you can see up there, they're a great group. We will start with Ed Taggart for his 10 years with Fire and Rescue Department. And they're also getting a coin and a cookie, and the cookie has the water tower on it. Specially made for volunteer to Ed, thank you.
Thank you.
We get our photo taken. Thanks, Kathy. Next, I have Lynn Robeson, who has given her time and talents of 11 years to the Fire and Rescue Department. And I see her headed this way. And I heard several fire volunteers are missing because there's an event going on tonight, right?
Yes.
Yes. Next, could I please have Matt Dirks join me with his volunteer service to Fire and Rescue Department of 11 years. Hi, thank you. Thanks. Next is Melissa Beauchamp. I thought it was Camp, but yeah, Beauchamp. Thank you, Melissa Beauchamp, for her 11 years with Fire and Rescue, too. Sometimes we all need a little assistance. Hi, Melissa. Thank you. Thank you for your commitment to our community.
You're welcome.
Here, take that. There you go. Thank you. There we go. And next, I have Ryan Keating with 13 years with Gilbert Fire and Rescue. Just hide the mic behind. And then everybody together. Yeah, let's come together and get Thank you. Thanks for your time. Swapping out chiefs, I'll have Chief Solberg join me for the volunteers from the Gilbert Police Department. Thank you. Kathy's helping me over here. Yes, thank you. I need a little extra assistance tonight. First, we have Jack Hefner for his contributions of time and talent to the Gilbert Police Department for 13 years. Hi, Jack. Thank you. We're going to face this way. Take this. Oh, that's for you. You're welcome. Next, I have Jim Frazier with 14 years of service to Gilbert Fire and Rescue. Your fault. So, see, I told you I need a little extra help this evening. Gilbert Police Department, Jim Frazier. I apologize. We're just going to take it like this, Jim. Oh,
Okay.
you dropped your coin there. There we
I'll
go.
lose the
I would
coin.
help you. Nice to see you, Jim. Thank you. Thank you. Here, take this for now. Thank you. It's a placeholder. Next, I have Mary Hafner for her 14 years to the Gilbert Police Department. Next, I have Edwina Pershke. That was my best guess. Edwina has served Edwina has served 16 years with the Gilbert Police Department. So you've seen 3 chiefs, an interim chief, a couple of Oh, yes. Yes, ma'am, you have. Yeah, please, thank you. Next, I have Sherry Moyers, who has served 23 years with the Gilbert Police Department. Hi, Sherry. Thank you. We'll get a photo. You can take that. This is for you. Sorry. And last but not least, Charlotte Sharp, who has been donating 26 years of volunteer time to the Gilbert Police Department. When I started volunteering in the town of Gilbert in 1997, Charlotte was one of the first people that I volunteered with on the Congress of Neighborhoods. So this is a very special moment. All 3 of us were on Congress of Neighborhoods. Yes, let me move this mic. Group photo here, Charlotte. This is for you. Thank you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for all you do. I just wanted to say one more thing. We wouldn't be able to do what we do in the town of Gilbert without our volunteers. The time and talents that they provide to this community on up to, I think we have 13 boards, commissions, task force entities that they serve on, and the police department and the fire department, and in so many different roles that they give back. And it's just an amazing way to learn about your community, serve your community, give back to your community, and I highly, highly recommend it. It's exactly how I started in the town of Gilbert. Highly recommend it. Thank you to everyone that's here, and thank you to everyone that donates their time.
As the mayor is making her way back, I'd like to remind everybody that this is Gilbert Kindness Week. This year's theme is Pay It Forward. Thursday, April 28th is the day that we'll be celebrating, and Gilbert Digital will post a Gilbert Kindness story on social media. We encourage you to share your own kind stories, and let's celebrate what Gilbert's all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Tilke. Our next item on our agenda is communications from citizens, so I'll pass the mic to the Vice Mayor.
Mayor Peterson,
Did we have the HD?
presentation.
So sorry. Speaking of volunteers and how important they are, the HD South is one of our amazing locations in Gilbert. I told you all I need a little extra help tonight. I'd like to invite down Rocky Brown from our Parks and Recreation Department.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. With us tonight, we have Denise Lopez from HD South, who's going to give her annual presentation.
Good evening. Mayor Peterson, Vice Mayor Yentes, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity this evening to share with you some of the accomplishments of HD South over the past year. Being an intergenerational communities for all ages model and offering expanded programming with a financially sustainable budget continues to be our goal and something we continuously strive for. As you can see in this slide, we held our 10th annual signature fundraiser in February of this year, We were thrilled to be able to host this in-person event, which was not only the 10th annual anniversary of our gala, it also is the 40th anniversary of the Gilbert Historical Museum. I'm happy to report our generated revenue was 45% higher than any previous year. And to those who attended, thank you. It was truly a record-breaking and memorable evening. So mark your calendars now for March 4th, 2023, and our 11th annual Night at the Museum. Our public programming has resumed and is back in full swing. Our programming focuses on 6 pillars: history, art, science, music, literature, and health and wellness. From April 2021 through March 2022, we held 95 programs with a total of nearly 730 participants. Due to extensive volunteer recruitment efforts, we were able to welcome 5 additional front desk volunteers and expand our business hours to once again include Fridays. We continue our search for volunteers, which would allow us to complete our pre-pandemic schedule of Tuesdays through Saturdays, as currently we are still closed on Wednesdays. The heart of our organization is our volunteers, and we certainly appreciate to no end those who continued to serve. From our various committee volunteers to our quilting group, the Model Railroad Club, our front desk volunteers, and those who help manage the collection of artifacts, photographs, and archives. They do much of what it takes to keep our facility and our activities going to make the biggest impact in the community. They gave over 1,500 hours to our organization this past year, and we are so grateful. During 2021, we continued our popular See It Saturday exhibits. The second Saturday of every month, a special collection of never-before-seen artifacts are on display. That program will resume in June, and so far we have showcased Gilbert newspapers, numerous decades of high school yearbooks, vintage clothing, school-related artifacts. We have continued our collaboration with Art Intersection in our Gallery 4. In fall of 2021, we hosted an exhibit by Kids in Focus, which encourages children to reach their potential using photography to ignite their imagination and build their sense of confidence and value. Kids in Focus helps children gain a new perspective on themselves and their environment by tapping into the power and universal language of photography. Earlier this year, we were honored to showcase the photographic works of acclaimed artist Carrick James. His images are drawn from 1,000 explorations across the expanse of Arizona. Some are of places now lost to flood or time. They depicted iconic landscapes, ephemeral weather, and celestial phenomena. Included are billion-year-old rocks, Medusa-like saguaros, images of cowboys and horses, Hopi and Navajo dancers, adventurers, and musicians of light. And of course, Route 66, our distinctive slice of the highway of American myth and promised freedom. And hopefully you all had an opportunity to view his amazing work. Also in Gallery 4 have been the 2 annual shows by the Gilbert Visual Art League, the Member Show in the fall and the Fine Art Show in the spring. Currently on exhibit is the Arizona Needle Art Show featuring work by members of the American Embroiderers Guild. And in 2 weeks, the Gilbert Public Schools Secondary Art Show and exhibit will be on display. In May of 2021, we sponsored the annual Memorial Day event, which was in person and held in conjunction with the Veterans Advisory Board, the Town of Gilbert, and American Legion Post 39. We also participated in the nationwide event, Taps Across America, and we welcomed members of the Ahwatukee Foothills Brass Section who played taps for our visitors. We are honored to be the temporary home to the replica of the USS Arizona, and you can see it on display in our military room. HD South will once again sponsor this year's Memorial Day event, which will be held on May 30th at 8:30 a.m. at Park University. In October, we hosted our first ever collector car show. This was done in partnership with the Desert Corvette Association. The event was so well received, we will be hosting another car show this October, and we plan on making it an annual community event. In December, we were thrilled to be able to host our annual Breakfast with Santa. It was a sold-out morning, and our group of volunteers put lots of smiles on the faces of those in attendance. Last month marked the beginning of our 17th annual Art of Quilting show, which is currently on display with a theme of center medallion quilts. There are 125 quilts throughout the museum, including a special traveling collection courtesy of the American Quilt Study Group. We have hosted exhibits including collections and artifacts from the House of Broadcasting, the Arizona State Button Society, Gilbert Promotional Corporation, our own collection, as well as items on loan to HD South from private collectors within the Gilbert community. This year, we had over 3,600 visitors to HD South, which included 1,900 from Gilbert, 750 from other parts of Arizona, 960 from other states, and 7 from other countries. While these numbers are less than our visitor counts pre-pandemic, they are a 40% increase over last year. We successfully launched the community phase of our Building Communities for All Ages capital campaign. Since then, we have battled the economic impacts of multiple COVID outbreaks, supply chain nightmares, and exploding construction costs. Money generated as part of our capital campaign will be used to renovate and preserve the existing museum building, construct a new ADA accessible building, and renovated courtyard, both of which will be used for expanded programs, exhibits, events, and rental space opportunities. We have built in a plan of revenue generation to ensure future sustainability. It's not too late to get involved. We are still accepting reservations for naming opportunities, and commemorative bricks are still available for purchase. These bricks will be laid in the 2 entryways into the courtyard for all to see. 2021 was a year focused on repair and rebound. Our admissions are on the rise, facility rentals have increased, and our retail sales have improved, as have our memberships. We are a private nonprofit organization, and our programming and mission is for our town and our community. It is Gilbert's history that we are preserving. We drive economic development and enhance arts and culture in Gilbert. This helps keep us a community of excellence. We truly appreciate your support, and once again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening.
Thank you, Denise. We appreciate your presentation. This is your second time. Thank you. This is your second time presenting to us as the CEO of HD South, so thank you and congratulations. Thanks, Rocky, for doing that intro. And now I can move on to communications from citizens, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. The communications from citizens portion on the agenda provides citizens an opportunity to identify for the town council matters of interest or concern related to town government that are not on the printed agenda. Under the provisions of the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the town council is prohibited from responding to issues that have not been properly noticed. Therefore, the town council may only listen to citizens who wish to address them on non-agenda items. We regret that the town council cannot respond beyond thanking you for your comments. The town asks that when your name is called, you come forward to the podium, state your name and place of residence, and then begin speaking. All speakers are expected to observe common standards of decorum and courtesy, no personal attacks or political speeches or threats of political action, and the discretion of the mayor for ending a speaker's time for not heeding proper decorum. And I think we'll have 3 minutes for each speaker, first being Suzanne Borland.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Borland. I live on Lindsay Road, 21219, at a residence there. And I'm just speaking as a member of the community. And with concerns about the widening of that road. There's a 1/4 mile section where it's 1 lane in both directions, and it's currently about 67 feet away from our front door. In 2018, we were approached by the town engineers, and they proposed moving the roadway 30 feet closer. So that's about half of what our front yard is currently. But at the end of 2021, we had another meeting that the whole, everyone affected was invited to, and the head engineer, David Favano, presented a new alignment. And it consisted of 25 more feet, which leaves us 12 foot to the property line. And I just would like to ask the council to reevaluate that alignment. There are other properties in Gilbert that have managed to compromise their alignments to a modified standard, which doesn't include wandering sidewalks and a easement with trees and such. So based on the encroachment of our property and other properties along this, it's just a quarter mile of roadway. I would like to ask you to reevaluate the engineer's decisions and possibly go back to the non-standard alignment, which was a little more easier to swallow, not taking as much property and not dealing with the noise of the roadway. Our house is 43 years old. It's not built to withstand road traffic noise to the degree that these may. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for your comments. We have one other communication form, Tom Patterson.
All right. Little new to say. My name's Tom Patterson. I live on 241 East Hemlock Avenue. I'm here in regards to WW 1060 taking half of our bought and cared for land and saying that you need to redo the sewer, in which case you do not. But with it being May, our next meeting's supposed to take place soon, I guess. I'm here as a reminder. Our town motto, as the lady reminded us, or me earlier, in the prayer is to anticipate, create, and help people. Well, we could use all three of those. Please, if you could anticipate our needs for our next WW 1060 meeting, create a solution that works for both of us, and help us Gilbert citizens keep our land. Last thing, just because it's been on my mind and it's been irritating me. Brother Scott Anderson, it's surprising to me that I grew up next to you. My parents still live by you, friends with your kids on Facebook. My brothers still good friends with your son. Went to church with your family growing up. And you've been voting to take away my land, as well as my neighbors that live maybe a mile and a half away from you. And I got time, so there's a lot of money being spent here. I would suggest shopping bids, Google. Have multiple departments of this town council review those bids so that we're all not getting screwed out of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. That concludes our communications from citizens, and we will move to the consent calendar. I have items 7 and 16 being pulled. Were there any additional items council members would like to pull? Seven and 16. If there are no other items, I will entertain a motion to approve items 4, 5, and 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22.
So moved.
Second.
All vote. Mayor, if you don't mind, would it be okay if we did item 16 before item 17? With that deference, item 17 was consider approval of one-time contingency transfer in the amount of $420,000 for Gilbert Fire and Rescue Department for overtime expenses. And this was previously mentioned in our study session meeting, but we had a subcommittee for the CARES Act yesterday afternoon, and it was at least a determination by the subcommittee members or consensus thereof that instead of using general fund monies for covering these what should be one-time overtime expenses, we would use the CARES monies instead. And being that they most closely align with the original intention of the CARES monies to begin with, and we would just give an opportunity if council members want to comment on that before entertaining a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I think Councilman Anderson.
I just have a question about these overtime funds as it relates to other. Have we had the same sort of issue with other departments, police or public works? I'm thinking of. Did we have overtime issues there also?
Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, Kelly, unless you've got that information handy and on the top of your head, we'd be more than happy to get back with you on that.
Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, we have experienced additional overtime in the other departments, but so far we've seen that they've been able to cover it with other savings in their budgets, but fire was not able to, and so needs some contingency and support in that area. We'll continue to watch as the year closes, but so far they're the ones.
Was this all COVID related?
I'm going to phone a friend on that one.
Mayor, Councilman Anderson, no, this is a combination of many factors over this past year. Some of it was tied to COVID. We did have some outbreaks earlier in the year, but we froze, if you remember last year, we froze vacation for our firefighters for a period of 4 to 5 months, and they accumulated extra hours. So in order to get them to use their vacation, they started taking vacation this year. So we did see an increase in vacation time. We did see an increase in COVID sick time. We were fortunate that we didn't have to freeze vacation leave again this year. There's also some of the paternity leave is impacting us, which we've incorporated in next year's budget at a slightly higher level. And there is a little bit of carry forward here for paramedic school because our current provider dropped their program, so we had to carry forward some of the overtime we had for this year into next year. So there's a combination of 4 or 5 significant events that are driving this fiscal year.
Thank you. I guess my only comment is I hate to set any kind of a precedent here with, I would like to know if any of the other departments experience the same type of overtime issues, because it's something that I really don't want to see in the future if we can avoid it.
I don't know if Patrick or anybody from management I think you're looking for an answer for your question. if other departments.
Patrick had already mentioned they're going to research it for me.
Oh, perfect.
Are you still looking for a motion then?
Yes, and if you could also specify the money that the CARES, specifying where the money's coming from, and the general fund.
So I make a motion to approve item 16 with the change that the money will be paid out as a one-time expense out of the CARES money. Is that appropriate? Okay.
Second?
All vote. Motion carries 6-1. And item 7, I pulled this agenda item, and we did have a discussion in our study session again as related to some of these projects that are on our CIP that we haven't had an opportunity to kind of pause and as a council discuss kind of the policy, of what we're contemplating here. And so this particular item is for a consulting contract to do kind of a study on 2 potential transit center stations. And I don't know if there's anybody here who wants to speak to this item specifically, but I have a lot of problems with this item.
Mayor, Councilmember, this is Stephanie, and I'm on the virtual team meeting, so I can answer any questions that you have on this item.
So my specific concerns, and I looked to my colleagues for any additional thoughts about this, is specific to these being planned for commuter rail. And I feel like as a body, we really haven't had an opportunity to discuss this idea. And I understand it's been in kind of planning documents, both for the town, for Maricopa Association governments, but a deeper dive into, is this even a good idea has not been held by this body. And I feel like this is absolutely premature and specific to the scope that's in this contract. At least what's been scoped out for stakeholder involvement is not really particularly clear. And it seems that the work of the stakeholders within this contract are more oriented towards kind of designing or planning and the framework for the stations, not whether we're going to actually reach out to community at large and see if this is something that they want in Gilbert to begin with. So that's one issue I take with this. I could go through the specifics of the contract, but I just like to get high level feedback from the council before we really get into this.
My comment on this topic is that the commuter rail stations have been published in several documents that have been presented to the public in Gilbert over the past several years. And actually, I believe a study was commissioned or about to start right before COVID hit, and then it kind of got canceled. But one of the stations, which would be in the Heritage District, was included in that redevelopment plan, and there's public participation for that. And then the station at Cooley Station, I believe both of those were mentioned as part of the outreach for the transportation bond. So I do feel that the public had a lot of exposure to these projects, and serving on the Citizens Transportation Task Force and then being a part of the transportation bond, I didn't receive any negative feedback towards these transit stations.
I think if I asked like 100 of my neighbors that if they know that commuter rail is going to be coming to Gilbert, I think approximately 0 of those people would be aware. So I appreciate the kind of the platforms we have for citizen engagement. I think when we're talking about an investment of this size, and not just an investment, but what it represents for opportunity costs, I think we really need to have eyes wide open about the level of awareness, because it's one thing to have it out in planning docs, but people don't know, they're not involved in this stuff. So unless you're really in tuned and kind of in that inner bubble, I simply don't think that there's a level of awareness out there whatsoever.
And last year, Amtrak announced some projects that might bring commuter rail to use that rail line in through Gilbert. And currently, it doesn't identify a stop in Gilbert. It would be in Queen Creek and then Mesa and Phoenix. So I guess for this project, I would kind of just like to understand, I think this is a first step or the step in kind of deciding or giving us the information that maybe will give us more background that we can decide whether to move forward with these projects or not.
Did you have something to add to this
yes,
file?
if you don't mind, and if it's okay, I'll back up just a little bit. In the staff report, it talks about how Gilbert and MAG and ADOT have actually been working on rail in the valley and through Gilbert since about 1993. Back in 2013, there was a study being commissioned by ADOT that looked at commuter rail from Phoenix, from Tucson up through Phoenix. And at that time, the Gilbert Town Council that was sitting at that time did sign a letter of support for that study. There was a federal record of decision that came down that identified that rail line through Gilbert as the most favorable one. It had the highest ridership. It showed that the transit locations, the station locations, were very favorable. And this was a study that had gone on for several years. So to Councilmember Kaprowski's point, this has definitely been something that's been at the forefront of our thoughts and our planning, transportation planning for a while. And as you well know, we also have development agreements with the Coolies that contemplated a rail station in Cooley Station for, it's been about 20 years now since that rezoning and that development agreement was done. The station location that is really kind of up in the air is anything in the Heritage District. As you know, there's a lot of redevelopment that's occurring there. There's some Heritage District plans in place. And so a study like this will not only help us kind of determine if and where a station in the Heritage District would be located, just to see if it's feasible or not, but then in the Cooley Station area where we actually do have some land set aside and have some options on some other properties, it'll help us determine what that size looks like and how that design lays out. And it's not simply just a transit station either. It'll go on to include multimodal design. So we're talking bus, we're talking rail, we're talking pedestrian, cyclists, everything. And a lot of this is to not only connect the commuter rail, but to connect transit throughout the community, whether it be out to ASU or whether it be to the mall. But it provides some different station and transit locations, not only, like I said, for the rail, but also for some bus and some other mobility factors as well. So sorry to kind of ramble and back up there, but I wanted to kind of lay some of that out for you.
Councilman Anderson, did you have a comment you want to make?
Yes. I don't have a problem with the station per se, but it's very similar to the discussion we've had about the CIP projects. I think we're a little bit premature. We're out over our skis. I think that's the term people use nowadays. Just listening to the conversation, we've heard that Amtrak doesn't even consider Gilbert as being a location for the stations. And the region has been doing studies over time, but what I'd like to see is a commitment by the region that this is really going to happen. And I haven't seen that, and I don't know that, when we're going to really hear that there's a commitment, a firm commitment that it's going to happen. I don't know if it's a financial commitment or something, but I feel like we need to get that commitment. We need to get Amtrak on board. There's going to be a station in Gilbert if we're looking for a station in Gilbert. And I think it's premature to get into this assessment before we have all those commitments.
Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, the Amtrak did not show in their early documents a station location in Gilbert. We have since met with Amtrak and provided them ample information. And the gentleman that comes out and kind of studies the Southwest area has said that Gilbert is ripe for a station location. We've had him on tours. We've taken him to our different locations. I know that the mayors in the region have all signed a letter in support of commuter rail and Amtrak. I believe there was even another letter that was getting ready to be signed as well. There was a rail conference just a few weeks ago in Tucson or Oro Valley, and there was mayors and council members from all over the valley that showed up and showed support. The Amtrak folks were there as well, trying to show that the valley does in fact support Amtrak and support commuter rail and wants to take that next step. I believe there is federal funding available for transit projects into the future. I think it's just the next step of waiting for the decision to come out of how that money will be allocated, where it will be spent, what the rules are for the spending of that. So I think that commitment is coming. We didn't want to get too far out ahead of ourselves with the study, but what we wanted to do was try to at least show support for this and get ahead of it so that if Amtrak, or if and when Amtrak or commuter rail does come forward, we've at least studied this and we've got a good position, and we're kind of ahead of the 8 ball. We're skating to where the puck is going and not where it's been. So I think that's kind of our thoughts on the alignment of the rail stations.
I'll just comment and say that the Amtrak representative was shocked that Gilbert wasn't on the initial map, considering the fact that we have a whole neighborhood that was created with a commuter rail station in mind. Cooley Station, the name was created for this commuter rail station. And when Amtrak heard about Gilbert and saw the fact that we already have 2 potential stations planned within our community, they were like, why didn't the people in DC that were looking at this pick up on the fact that Gilbert already had these things in mind? And even last week at a MAG meeting, the Phoenix mayor said, Phoenix said, Gilbert's way ahead of us. They already have 2 stations planned, and the rest of us are already signing on to this letter for commuter rail, and none of us are ready. We need to catch up to Gilbert. And that agreement for Cooley Station was signed by the council in December of 2014, and the planning going into that had to have been 2 or 3 years before it actually got to the council for that year. So we're talking over 20 years that this has been a discussion and potential item that would be coming forward. And I think that now we're at the point where we have to decide if it is going to work in those locations. We need to be at the point that we're ready to say that. And if Amtrak comes knocking with those federal dollars, is Gilbert on board to do that? And I know it's a lot of information that you're all hearing probably for the first time. That happens.
And Mayor, Council, this obviously is a study to determine the feasibility of those sites. This is not construction of any type. This is to determine what size this needs to be, what the layout is, what the possibility is, so that we are poised for success in the future when commuter rail and Amtrak does come back.
Mm-hmm. And so why I would support this feasibility study is because currently there's some space in the Heritage District that's kind of reserved for this. And with the Heritage District growing so quickly, it might be good to know whether a station's even feasible or even desired there, so that we can release that area for other things that might serve the town in a better way.
I'd be curious what what their standard of feasibility even means. It's clear reading through what the intended takeaways from this contract is, that we're going to use this to kind of build support in the community for this concept. So I don't read this contract. I don't read things like, task 6 as something that indicates this is feasibility, as much as this is what we have our mind made up on, and now we're going to go design some pretty pictures to try and build support in the community for something that I think, quite frankly, like, we're taking crazy pills if we think people are going to be excited about commuter rail and the complete boondoggle that this will be, not just for this community, but for this state. Like, we are literally observing California living this nightmare. And I can't point to a state that Amtrak is not being heavily and deeply subsidized by taxpayers, despite like 75% decline in their ridership. I can't point to a state where we have a good model that makes any amount of sense for this. This is literally, and we're going to put the foot on the pedal because we've got build back bankruptcy dollars that are going to be flooding the jurisdictions. I think this has a lot more to do with who has to gain financially There's a huge rail lobby in DC for this kind of stuff, and it has nothing to do with reducing congestion, improving transportation as a model. So I'm a vehement no on this. I think way over our skis was a nice way to put it, Councilman Anderson.
Vice Mayor, if I may, I'd just like to mention that my recollection of the discussions over the years is the same as Kyle's. In fact, the chamber was one of them that came out and supported, I believe it was the orange line, or were the yellow, I can't remember.
Yellow,
the yellow line. And because the way it did come through Gilbert made much more sense than some of the other opportunities, such as going down the middle of the freeway and different things like that. I only mention that because there was a lot of community discussion about that with stakeholders groups. And I understand that that was about 10 years ago, so perhaps new people who have moved to the community aren't aware that this has been in the plans. I appreciate you asking the question, is it time to have the discussion based on the history of what we are today? I understand you're opposed, so I got that message, by the way. But the other question that was posed, are we getting ahead of ourselves, right? And I think that's really, in my mind, where we are today. We've put a lot of plans. We've got development agreements. We've got redevelopment agreements. We have a lot of things in place that show designated areas for the future growth of these stations. And so in my mind, based on that history, based on the actions of previous council, we need to decide, is it time to do a feasibility study? And if you're not comfortable with maybe the scope of the feasibility study, maybe we bring it back and have a different discussion about that. Or perhaps you're just a no, and the rest of us need to look at, are we getting out, ahead of our skis? I don't have the answer to that, by the way. I'm really not sure about the timing. Is this the right time? I think the question is, are we trying to be proactive and be prepared? And it's going to cost us some money to do that, hopefully save us money in the long run. Or do we need to kind of pump the brakes and have a bigger discussion?
I was just perusing the 2018 MAG plan on this, and they had a chart that was useful. It compared other cities and states that have commuter rails and then how they fund those things. And there wasn't one that was listed on that chart that didn't have some sort of dedicated local sales tax, and that's on top of massive state subsidization, and then of course the federal monies as well. We're obviously seeing like unprecedented spending on the federal level, and maybe that's going to be the only thing that slows any of this down in the region as far as what this kind of level of spending is going to take with inflation. But I think this is insane. And I usually try to be very diplomatic about these agenda items, but I think we're going to have a lot of backlash in the community when we start heading down this road. I mean, we haven't talked about rapid bus transit. There's a lot of other ways. I don't think it's a matter of timing. I don't think there is a good timing for 19th century technology. I think this is a broken model, and I think there's a lot of buyer's remorse in other states that have gone down this track.
Councilmember September, do you have any comments? I don't want to forget him up there.
No, thank you, Mayor. I'm listening to the conversations, and I feel like I want to learn more. I think Councilmember Yentes makes some valid points about the spending at the federal level, and perhaps having a study is a better way to gather additional information. I'd want to learn more about, I know commuter systems are used. I understand that the light rail in Phoenix met their long-term projections within a few years, but I guess my questions go deeper than usership. Is what is the goal of a rail transit system? Should it pay for it? Should the user fees pay for the system and the improvements that we would entertain here as the town? Or is that never the goal? Is financially, I would want to see what that looks like.
Thank you, Councilmember. And yes, Councilmember Anderson.
We're actually talking about two different things here. We're talking about the commuter rail itself, and then we're talking about the location and feasibility study of stations, which gets me back to my concern is that there's something that's totally out of our hands, whether or not the commuter rail is really going to happen. And that has to be determined. I mean, there have been studies that have been done. I'm very familiar with studies that get done and sit on the shelf and don't get implemented. But there are discussions that are still going on, it sounds like to me, and that decision is going to be made somewhere out of Gilbert, whether that's going to happen. My point is, do we spend close to whatever it is, $500,000 on that gamble, on rolling the dice that that's going to happen? And I'm not comfortable doing that. Not at this time anyway. Again, I'll reiterate, I don't oppose these stations. I think they will be needed at some point, but the decision on whether or not that's going to happen is out of our hands.
Mayor and Vice Mayor, is there a possibility to bring this back to a study session and go in a little deeper about where we are on any commitment levels so that we better understand exactly where we are as far as commuter rail and the timing of that and how that impacts our community? And I do think that's a different topic about whether commuter rail, from your perspective, Vice Mayor, whether commuter rail comes through Gilbert or not has nothing to do with our decision. That's moving forward. Not that we can't have that discussion, it's just not what we're looking to approve. But if we could have a study session, go a little deeper, better understand it, maybe understand that scope a little better, making sure that our timing is correct, then we could move forward. And I guess I would put that in a form of a motion, perhaps, to continue this item to a study session, and you need a date certain. Is 2 months enough time to do that?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Tilke, 2 months puts us almost right at the end of June, and then we will break for July. If I could ask Kyle, is this something, Kyle, we could push to August after the summer break, bring to a study session, have a more in-depth conversation about this study, the multimodal centers themselves, where things currently stand with commuter rail, and dive deeper for the council before we commission a study.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And by that time, too, we may have some more information from Amtrak.
Okay.
Great. Do you need me to repeat that motion?
I think if the clerk got it, I'll second.
Okay. Did you get that?
Motion to delay to a date certain, August.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so two council members, council meeting dates in August are the 9th and the 23rd.
How about,
Kyle, do you have a preference on either?
I would suggest the 23rd only because your agendas are usually really large when you come back from break.
Great point.
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Please vote. Oops. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the conversation. We will now move into our public hearing portion of our agenda. We have one liquor license, one bond issue, one zoning issue that I have 2 members of the public that would like to speak at, and 2 property issues. Would we like to do one motion for the liquor license and the 2 property issues, and then take the other ones individually? That's just my assumption. Yes, okay. I'll open the public hearing on items 23, 26, and 27. Close the public hearing and entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Tilke, seconded by Councilmember Anderson. Please vote. Next item on our agenda is item 24, which is the bond discussion. And I saw Hawken move his way to the front of the room. If you'd like to come up and just have a, I guess, short, I don't think you have a presentation, but a short discussion like our last meeting, I say.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, council members. I do not have a presentation. I'm happy to talk through or answer any questions regarding these. These are the water resource MPC bonds. The MPC board met last night, had a robust discussion. Councilmember September was there present, and they approved their resolution. This is a two-part, as the MPC board is the entity that issues the bonds, and the town agrees to pay lease payments equal to the bond payments, and that is how that process works for these municipal property corporation bonds.
And their resolution was a recommendation for the council to pass these bonds this evening. Thank you. Just to be clear, I just wanted to be clear for everybody. Thank you. Any questions or comments for Hawken on this item?
Mayor, could I just ask a question? Yes. Just a clarification. When I read through the documents, there were some blanks left open, and I'm assuming that gets filled in once we've approved it, and then all the paperwork signed. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilmember Tilke, council, that is correct. We work on the documents, and the preliminary official statement in particular is the document that investors will look to decide if they wish to purchase these bonds. And there are some things that we continue to fill in as we get closer to that day, but it is substantially complete. No significant changes will be made after this point.
Any other comments or questions for Hawken? No? Then I would go ahead and open the public hearing. I don't have any comments to speak on this item. Close the public.
If I may,
yeah,
just,
please
bring up this item does have an emergency clause. I'm not sure if this council has encountered that on bonds in the past. The purpose of that is for us to be able to close the bonds as quickly as we can. It is a very turbulent market, and the emergency clause allows us to, again, close the bonds sooner than the 30 days that is typically required for a legislative action from council. And that does require 6 or more votes in favor. If we do not have that, then we would not be able to close those bonds until after that 30-day period. And rates could stay the same, they could go down, or they could go up significantly. And so there could be impacts financially to the town.
And what we've seen recently, rates have been increasing.
Rates have increased significantly over the last 6 months.
With more increases to come, most likely.
This week, we're looking to sell our GEO bonds tomorrow.
Okay.
And this week, we're seeing a pause for the moment, but it's the first pause all year. And so it is something that we're very cognizant of. And so just wanted to make that clear exactly of why that emergency clause is in there. It's not something we do lightly. We will sell the bonds if the resolution is passed. But without the emergency clause, we would have to wait a little bit to close that bond.
Thanks, Hawken. Any more comments, discussion? Close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. That was such a fast motion in a second. Thank you very much. Thanks, Hawken. Thanks for all your work on this. I know it's a difficult time right now in our country. Next, we have zoning issue Z21-13 to conduct a hearing and consider approval of findings and adoption of an ordinance for Gilbert 13 to rezone approximately 12.19 acres generally located northwest of Lindsay Road and Galveston Street from single-family SF 43 to single-family SF 35. I will open the public hearing. Do we have a Oh, who is it? Somebody's virtual.
I'm virtual tonight.
Thank you.
I have a small presentation to go over. That's okay with everybody?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Give me 1 second here.
Let us know if you need anything, Kristen. The team's here if you need something.
All right, perfect. Okay, I've got my screen sharing. Can everybody see it?
Not yet. The team will make that happen.
All right, well, let me cancel it and try to do it again here. Right. How about now?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Right, perfect. Thank you. Okay. So good evening, everybody. My name is Kristen. I will be presenting this evening for you. The rezoning before you tonight is on Lindsay Road. It's just north of Galveston. You can see the parcel here outlined in blue. The applicant is requesting to rezone approximately 12 acres of undeveloped land currently zoned as SF43 to SF35. The applicant is not proposing to deviate from SF35 standards and will not have a PAB overlay. All standards will adhere to SF35 standards set forth in our land development code. And shown here are the development standards for SF35 lots. The main difference between the current SF43 and the proposed SF35 will be the required lot width, decreasing to 140 feet instead of 145 feet. The side setback will also be reduced to 20 feet from 30 feet, and the minimum lot sizes would be reduced from SF43 being 43,000 square foot lots to the SF35 35,000 square foot lots. Rezoning to SF35 would permit one additional lot to be developed, then would be permitted if this were to remain SF43. The next slide here is for reference only. It's not included in the rezoning request tonight. The applicant is proposing to develop a 13-lot subdivision on the currently vacant parcel. We've held 3 pre-applications over the last year with the applicant and worked extensively with them to land on this concept plan for the development. It'll be formally reviewed as part of a preliminary plat application. And it's important to note that originally the applicant did want to add 14 lots here instead of 13, but due to the shape of the parcel, the minimum lot dimension requirements from planning, and the access and roadway requirements from both traffic and fire, 14 lots just don't work on this lot. And one was dropped to create 13 conforming SF35 lots. A virtual neighborhood meeting was held on June 14th, 2021. A few of the surrounding neighbors did show up to ask questions and gather information. There wasn't a lot of concern voiced during the meeting other than the desire for single-story homes only, and if possible to have the western boundary of the site keep SF43 standards. 3 neighbors did show up to the Planning Commission meeting that we held on April 6th in opposition of the rezoning. And during the April 6th Planning Commission meeting, Commission voted 6-1 to approve the rezoning request of the 2113 as conditioned. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the proposed rezoning as conditioned from SF43 to SF35. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have concerning the request.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this time?
Mayor Peterson, we have one more presentation.
Oh. Oh, I was going, the applicant, do you mean? Representing the applicant is Jessica Sarkissian. You have a presentation, Jessica?
Actually, yeah, Jessica Sarkissian from Planning, 2733 North Power Road and Mesa. Actually, I would reserve any, I just want to hear if there's any questions from the council, and then ask the, I can reserve that for the neighbors.
Your follow-up, yes. I'm confused.
flash drive.
Jessica, do you have a presentation or no? You just want to answer questions? Okay, thank you. Then I will go ahead and invite the members of the public. I have two slips. One did not indicate whether or not they wish to speak. One is Ryan Boehm. I see you moving forward, so I assume you would like to speak. And then the next is Perry Castanis. I believe I'm saying that correctly. Come down to the podium and we'll give you 3 minutes to speak to the council on this topic. Just give us your name and your town of residence, please.
Yes, my name is Ryan Bainey. I live at 1920 South Windsor Road. My property is right at the beginning of that new subdivision that they're trying to put in there. And in that, they have a 50-foot setback that's right in front of my home. But when they get into the property, the road goes down. And I'm concerned because I'm going to get all the traffic at our home. The reason we bought acreage in Gilbert is we wanted the land. And I don't, they can put eight acre lots in that property. To me, is they want to go down so they can put more in to make more money. But I think it should stay R43 just like it is. And they can still come in, then the setbacks wouldn't be so wide. I'm just concerned that I'm getting 50 feet in front of my property with a road because of the access for coming in there. But then when it gets to their property, they're not dealing with the 50 feet. They've actually reduced their road as well. So that concerns me too. And I think for me, it's just why go down to R35 when they can actually build and put acre lots in there. I'm on 1.25 acres, and I just don't want to see it go in there. And of course, I would like you to vote no for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Perry, please.
Mayor Peterson, Town Council members. My name is Perry Castanis. I live at 2139 South 141st Street. We purchased that home about 18 months ago, and we've been looking all over for property of an acre size because we like the lifestyle. And I'm here today in opposition of the rezoning from S43 down to S35 because the S43 affords a lifestyle that is conducive to the area that's already existing. I understand there was precedent set maybe a year or so ago when a home on Lindsay and might be Galveston was rezoned. But all the rest of the acreage in what is lovingly called the County Island affords a unique living opportunity. 141st Street, just to give you some idea, has 5 homes on it. And all great neighbors, of course, because we live here in Gilbert. That's why we bought in Gilbert. This is a nice, quiet neighborhood that is so small on our street that we have to cart the trash all the way down our street to get to Pony Lane so the town of Gilbert will pick it up. We cart them back up when they're empty. We are not in favor of having homes built there on smaller lots with added traffic. There's plenty of other opportunities to put a lot in somewhere else. The design could be changed to afford full acre lots of SF43 as was previously done. The opportunity here, we heard at the last meeting on April 6th was it's just one more. Well, that might be true. They gave one lot less than they originally requested, but it's still significantly less than what SF 43 calls for. I urge the town council to please vote no. Thank you.
Thanks, Perry. I'll go ahead and ask the applicant representative now to come up.
Thank you. Can I have a view of the picture? Okay, so thank you, Council. This is the lot in question. As you can see, it was previously all one parcel with where it is, and the parcel to the south as we zoom in. So the property just along Lindsay Road this was all one piece. And the neighbor, Mr. Ryan, the first speaker, actually had an easement across, a dedicated easement across private property of this property. Since then, it has been parceled off. And when we did that, we had to make sure that all setbacks were maintained for the new parcels. So those parcels and buildings still maintain those. That 50-foot is now going away from an easement, and the town requires a public dedicated road right-of-way. So this is now a dedicated right-of-way that he has access to instead of just an easement over someone else's property. The project will have was originally proposed for acre lots. And however, when we went in, it was unable to do that because the town requires a dedicated right-of-way. So we had to take the requirement for that, and it came out of lots, and they all became slightly less than 43,560. And so we do have, and the current meets the general plan, the existing RE35 that they were talking about below is also in the 0 to 1. Here is the site with the SF 43, and here's what we're going to SF 35. This is what the discussion is. This is a conventional rezone. We aren't asking for a PAD, but this is what we have discussed and gone back and forth with town staff for 4, maybe 5 pre-apps. It feels like we went back and forth. They were really helpful, just trying to make things, see what we can fit and what will work. And so here you see that it's a private road, but we had to do it to a dedication. And so all that property came out. So you do see some of the lots are at 46,000, some are greater than 35,000, but they are a minimum of 35,000, and they all meet the same front and rear setbacks as an SF 43, the acre requirements. The only difference is, as Kristen mentioned, is on the side yards. They are all large lots. They are all a transition from the SF 43 around it. And the question about taking open space away from the area, this site is tucked behind properties. It is not along Lindsay. You can pretty much not see it from Lindsay. It is an infill piece, and currently we are actually managing this site with overgrowth because it was previously farmed, and so we go in there and clear it all the time. So it is an infill piece, and it transitions, we feel, very nicely here. It is an appropriate area for this. So I just ask if there's any other questions from council. I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Jessica, the applicant? Seeing none, Jessica, thank you. Kristen, do you have anything further to add to the discussion? Thank you. Thanks for your time. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for discussion and/or motion. Would anybody like to start? I'm looking both ways and nobody wants to jump in, okay? I attended the Planning Commission meeting and heard the discussion on this one because it was, because I've been surprising the boards and commissions with cookies, and it happened to be the meeting that I attended for Planning Commission this month and heard the discussion, and there are so many factors that the town has weighed in on with no more allowing easements to make sure that people have dedicated driveways and roadways, and that's become such an issue. I know Kyle Maris and I have met with with other people wanting to develop, and that's become an issue. And so we're trying to be very careful to set people and neighborhoods up for success. And so I think that's been a factor with developing this lot in particular. As you can see from the plan that they had, at least 2 of the lots would be 46,000 square feet potentially, because we're not voting on that particular one this evening, but potentially will be 46,000 square feet and much larger than 35,000 square feet, with the lowest number being 35,000 square feet. This is an infill project. I think these are the types of projects that we're going to be seeing a lot in the future when it comes to developing pieces like this. This isn't an unreasonable request from SF 43 to SF 35, and to make the project fit in the space that is allotted. I think that's the big discussion here, is if they tried to pencil out SF 43 with driveways, with setbacks, you wouldn't be able to pencil out something that would be a sellable product in that location. And I don't think that this is an unreasonable request. Any other comments? Councilmember Anderson.
I'm just glad it's not a request for multifamily.
Exactly. And it's not a huge down zone. They are, like I said, the lots are larger in size, even larger than 43,000 square feet, a couple of them. So they're getting the setbacks of the 43 SF 43. I don't think it's a big decision.
What was the lone dissenting vote from the commission?
I can't remember what his reason was. That because it's 1 unit per acre, and it was going to go to 1.05 units per acre, and he said that was over the allotment. You're still within the 1. It's not. It's going to 1.05 units per dwelling units per acre. Thank you, Jessica. So again, that's not a big difference either in the situation. And again, we're going to be seeing a lot of cases like this coming forward. So, any comments? Somebody would like to? Yes, Councilmember Toki.
Mayor, thank you. I think the point that kind of made my decision really was that it is an infill project, and that applicants worked very hard with the staff to transition this in such a way to keep the, and I'm not a planner, so I don't know the right words, the setbacks and different things to be good neighbors, I guess is what I'd say. And we are going to see a lot more of these. And I would like to see more this way than the other recommendations we've been getting in the past. And so I appreciate the town working as hard as they have, and the applicant. I know we always want it to be exactly as it is when we move into our home, but in this case, I think that we've done the best we can with a transition property. And with that, I'll move to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Toki, seconded by Vice Mayor Yentes. Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Councilmember September had to hop off the call just a few minutes ago. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the great discussion. Thank you to the neighbors for coming out and being part of the discussion. Next, we will move on to administrative items. We have boards, commissions, and committees. Any reports from council?
I have one.
Yes.
As the representative from the town on AMWA, I think you've all received the email from Lauren about our situation on the Colorado River. While we're still encouraging the community by letting them know that there's not a shortage at the tap, it's just at the river that there's a shortage, and the shortage is getting a little bit more serious. It's even the ability to generate electricity may be in jeopardy, and So I think Lauren did the right thing in letting us know that in the future we're going to have to discuss some implementing our own conservation plan here in Gilbert and probably work on that on a region-wide basis with other communities. But that's something that we may be looking forward to here in the near future.
And we will rely on your guidance from AMWR, please.
Please don't panic.
And you're going to the CAP dinner tomorrow evening, so you'll learn some things there, I'm sure. Yes, thank you. Any other? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have two. First, our Community Engagement Task Force is up and running, and beginning on May 2nd, we will be diving into some of the demographics of Gilbert, what resources we currently have, what are we seeing out in our community, and we invite the public to come by and learn with us on these important topics, and you can find the information on the town's website. Secondly, I just want to do a quick shout out to Gilbert Leadership Class 31. We were out with them this Saturday, and they planted over 600 plants in the Sister Cities Friendship Garden, and it is really taken shape. And I was just so proud of them, our staff, and then the whole community that's come together. And we will have a ribbon cutting May 20th, and information will be going out so that you'll be invited to attend. And then we'll also do a grand opening in the fall when it's a little cooler. But it is something to be proud of, and I just can't thank everybody enough for participating.
I saw the pictures from that. Your worlds are colliding. You have Gilbert Leadership and Sister Cities coming together. It's amazing. Any other comments from anyone? Seeing none, move on to communications from the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Two things tonight. First, on Friday, we attended a ribbon cutting for Northrop Grumman's expansion of their satellite assembly facility, as well as general office space in Gilbert. And at that ceremony, which was special for this community to see that continued investment, they specifically highlighted and expressed their appreciation for two of our team members for their work in helping guide them through that process, Dan Henderson and his team in economic development, to help them understand the investment opportunity in Gilbert and why it was the right place for their continued investment. And they've got facilities all over the nation and all over the globe. So we were glad to see them make that investment here. And as part of that, they will be manufacturing the HALO, which stands for the Habitat Logistics Outpost, the space station that will actually be circling the moon and delivering materials, supplies, and individuals to and from the surface of the moon. Will be manufactured a portion of that right here in Gilbert, Arizona, and is the first manned space flight vehicle built in the state of Arizona. Everything else has been unmanned up to this point. And then next, they also recognize Kyle Miras and his team. The pandemic hit towards the beginning of this project, and it was a very complex project. Certain portions of the satellite assembly facility had some of the largest tilt-up panels in the United States on a construction project, which required some special cranes and a lot of logistics to figure out how to get that done. And they had mentioned that many cities, when the pandemic hit, really either just slammed the brakes on inspection services, plan review services, and all of the type of activities they need from us to keep projects moving along. And to use their words, that Gilbert didn't miss a beat and kept things moving along for that project, and they were very grateful for that. So thank you, Kyle Miras and your team, and Dan Henderson and your team. That was a great day for Gilbert and a great thing for our community. Next, I wanted to recognize once again Jean Jensen, who has won yet another award. As you know, just a couple weeks ago, we highlighted she was the Engineer of the Year award. She now has been awarded the George Wolin Fuller Award, which is presented annually by the American Water Works Association. Respective selected members for their distinguished service to the water supply field in commemoration of sound engineering skill, brilliant diplomatic talent, and constructive leadership. She was nominated and selected by an awards committee made up of American Water Works Association members. In the 18 years that the Engineer of the Year award has been given out, the same person has never won both awards in the same year. So I'm glad Jean's a member of our staff. Thank you for the great work. Don't try to go anywhere else. And that's my report for the night, Mayor. Thank you.
How do we chain her to a desk? Oh, no, that's not allowed, right? Next, report from council on current events. Seeing none, report from the mayor on current events. I will say that Councilmember Anderson and I attended a groundbreaking for Mercy Gilbert's medical office building on Wednesday morning with the medical center sitting right there. We were looking at the steeple on the medical center as we were breaking ground, and again, we had great comments from the developers of that project and the process of going through the town and working with all of our town staff. And then I ended up a patient at Mercy Gilbert on Friday night. So I was very thankful to have those great people and that great relationship that we have with them and Dignity Health, and to know that they are not only caring for us today and the babies, the 300 babies that are being born a month at Mercy Gilbert Medical Center, but they are now going to be training the doctors of the future. And those doctors will stay here in Gilbert, they'll stay in the region, and they bring such an economic development base to our community over the time that they're here. It's just amazing. So it was really great to be part of that. I was so sad to miss the Northrop Grumman ribbon cutting on Friday, but I thank everybody that attended, and thanks for everyone's support and all the great wishes that I've had from everybody, and again to Mercy Gilbert for the great care that I received. And we are adjourned.